Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be taking a look at manufacturing, and the reason we're concentrating on manufacturing at the moment is there's a lot of negativity around manufacturing on forums and on Reddit, and people saying all sorts of weird and wonderful things that it's not profitable anymore, it's not fun. And again, since the patch, there has been huge opportunities to make vast quantities of ISK of late. So I'm not 100% sure what people are doing, but we're going to approach it from a really simple point of view and just try and get across how you can make good ISK manufacturing. Now we're going to approach this from a kind of safe and steady point of view, but I'm going to show you how you can make billions doing manufacturing. And it's straightforward. I'm hesitant to say, but it's easy, and that's because the process doesn't change. Again, it's like the difference between manufacturing and NPCing, for instance, is that it's instant ISK when you go NPCing as such. You go shoot said rats, and you're going to get ISK right there and then. Where manufacturing, you kind of have to do a little bit of planning, a little bit of moving stuff around, and then obviously you have to sell it. But then the ISK rolls in, and I think that puts a lot of people off. And again, looking at the figures, it doesn't always feel particularly great, or it doesn't sound as good as making 100 million ISK an hour doing ratting in wherever or doing abyssal runs. Whereas manufacturing, you make a lot less on an hourly basis, but because you can do it 24 hours a day, it adds up, and we'll show that in this. And this goes for Tech 2 and Tech 1 manufacturing. Now Tech 1 is a little bit harder, and it will take you a little bit more probing around, but there are definitely profitable things to be found, and lots of them at the moment. But again, for instance, we've got the Tech 2 torpedoes here now. I messed up installing the first two here, but after that we got going. Now you're going to see here that I've got quite a lot of alts working on this at the moment, and all that does is increase the amount of ISK that I'm making per job lot. So you don't need thousands of alts to be making a good ISK. You just need a bit of patience and time. So let's have a look, see how many we've actually got. Let's get them together. So not bad. How much is that in total? 7.3 billion ISK that I need to transport now back to Jitter. So for the torpedoes that I have produced here, I am making 1.25 million ISK on average per hour. Now they've been running for 17 hours in order to be able to produce one Tech 2 BPC's worth, which was 10 to 13 runs, which has made me 21 million ISK over the 17 hours. So we'll round back to 24 hours. So I've made 21 million in 24 hours. So compared to obviously ratting, 21 million ISK over 24 hours is pretty poor. Obviously ratting you should be making, so say, around about 100 million ISK an hour depending on what you're doing. So it's not great. However, we did have 10 slots doing the production here, so one character can produce up to 10 BPC's worth over the 24 hours. So we'll times that by 10, which gives me 212 million ISK. Again, pretty decent, not bad for 24 hours. But again, ratting, if you're doing it well, you could make that in an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I think that puts people off. But again, the thing that you've got to remember for manufacturing is once you've chosen your items and you've moved said items to the place where you want to manufacture, so say I do all mine in Perimeter or Jitter or Ansem, which is 3 jumps away from Jitter, depending on obviously the circumstances and what I need at the time. But I think it puts a lot of people off because it's slow accumulated ISK, and it's like, oh well, I can make more money doing, or more ISK doing X, Y and Z, and it's like, well, even if we hadn't have gone to quite this extent, say we're making, we've got an item that's making us 500k an hour. It's pretty decent 500k, so okay, let's drop that down to 250,000 ISK per hour. So over a 24-hour period, you're making 6 million ISK. pretty poor. Times it by your 10 slots, you can have 11, but we'll assume you've got 10, you're making 60 million ISK an hour. And as I said, that's less than you'll be making, 60 million ISK a day, which is less than you could make in 40-50 minutes of NPCing. So, you look at it and go, oh, it's not really worth it. But bearing in mind, obviously, once you've got all your stuff moved to where you want it, it's really easy. It takes you a couple of minutes every day just to log in and set these things going. And over a course of a month, you've made a 1.8 billion ISK. Well, again, it's it's not a huge amount. It's decent, don't get me wrong, but then again, do that every day for a year, and you've made 21 billion ISK. Now, yes, you can make that obviously NPC and this, that, and the other, but this is, as I say, relatively passive. It doesn't take you an hour each day to do any of this. It takes the biggest painful part of the process is basically the planning stage and getting everything moved to the station that you're going to be producing in. But once you've got that set up and once you've been doing it regularly, it becomes easier and easier and faster, and you know what you move in and what you need and what you're running out of, etc. So again, it's manufacturing is the snail versus the hare versus the tortoise, I guess. It slowly accumulates, but it does accumulate, and again, it's unlike NPCing, this is very expandable, or it's somewhat expandable. So, for instance, you could possibly NPC on two different characters at the same time, so you could be earning 200 million ISK an hour. But you can expand this to 3, 4, 5, 6 characters all doing different stuff, manufacturing different stuff. So, at the moment, we're only doing this on one character. Well, each account has up to 3 characters. So, potentially, we could times that by 3 and be making 64 billion ISK a year. So you can see how, over time it accumulates a lot, but obviously over an hourly period, it's quite poor. So the nice thing about manufacturing as well is that you can do this as well as NPCing or whatever it is that you do in your spare time. So you can use this to complement what it is that you're doing, as well as, don't think that you're either a manufacturer or you're a PvPer or you're a miner or you're doing this or you're doing that. Do both, do everything, do whatever it is that you enjoy doing. And sitting down and saying, oh yeah, I really love the manufacturing side of EVE is, I dare say there's not that many people that sit down and go, oh great, it's time to get some manufacturing done. But it's a means to an end, and the actual interaction that you have to have with manufacturing can be relatively minimal. You don't have to invest huge amounts of time in order to be able to do it. Whereas obviously, ratting NPC, and if you're going to be making any kind of decent ISK over the time, you're going to have to, be at it pretty much every day or sink in a lot of hours in order to do it. Whereas I say you can get this, once you've set it all up, sticking new BPCs in and getting them printed out and moving the stuff, you're looking at about 10 minutes a day tops. So, you're making a lot more than you would do doing PI. And again, it can be scaled, and that is obviously a huge bonus. So the question, I guess, is how much did I make on these torpedoes? Now, these have been currently making on average 1.25 million ISK per hour. They've been at manufacturing for 17 hours to get this amount of torpedoes. 21 million ISK. I did it over 6 characters, so 60 slots. Well, it could have been 64, but let's not split hairs. So I've made 1.275 million ISK in 15 minutes of moving stuff around, although the torpedoes are now going to move back to jitter, so that'll take me another probably 15 minutes, so 30 minutes to make 1.5 billion ISK or 1.25 billion ISK. So again, that's obviously at scale, and this kind of return on the amount of this that I'm making per item here is more than what I would consider normal. But again, we've shown that obviously at a lesser volume, that over the course of months, you can make very good ISK manufacturing still. And not a great deal has changed. Yeah, some things have become harder to make, but all in all, you choose a select cut out of what it is that you're going to produce and produce it and sell it on the market. Don't try and make the whole thing yourself, because again, you're going to get tied up running around in circles. So I hope that was interesting. Again, I'm going to do a few more videos on this, on how-tos pretty much. I'm going to go a bit more back to basics for some tutorial guides, which I think I'm missing a bit of late. So with that, thanks for your time, thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you again soon.